Hello, gamers from around the world. This is Boxenberger, the video game enthusiast from Germany, and I would like to welcome you to today's episode of the World of Gaming. Your number one podcast. You know it. We discuss everything games, news, technology, and today we do that with an awesome guest. We have Karek, aka ACG, the most passionate gaming reviewer out there on the show. Thank you, man, for joining us here today.
Yeah, thanks for inviting me. Sorry it took forever for us to get connected.
No, don't worry, don't worry. No, I'm really glad you made it, and we will talk about it in a second. I just want to welcome everyone in chat. I already see a lot of familiar faces, some new faces, names here as well. Welcome to you guys, and also welcome to everyone who listens after the fact on the podcast services around the globe. If you do that, please, it would be awesome to consider to drop a review on Apple Podcasts or Spotify or wherever you listen. That helps these little shows out. And yeah, again, Karek, welcome to the show. Thanks, man. It's really an honor to have you on. You know,
It's an honor to be invited on. You don't understand, man. It is an honor to be invited on, channels. Like I think a lot of people think that you don't want to be. You do want to be. It's just hard sometimes to get the time.
Sometimes, yeah. I can imagine. I've seen your tweet the other day that you get a lot of invites these days. I can absolutely imagine. So
that was directly in relation to you as well.
Yeah,
like trying to tell people, like I was like, dude, I got to get these guys out first because this is ridiculous. It's been like 3 months of trying to figure this out.
Yeah, and I'm glad we did it because I've been following you for a while, and you're one of the very few people that really inspired me to actually go to do YouTube
Awesome.
and put out a channel. I think I discovered you around the time of the Witcher 3 release.
Oh yeah,
I think it was one of your first walking the walk videos, right? If not the first, I'm not really sure.
I think Witcher was not the first, but it was the first big one. Like a lot of people watched.
Yeah, and ever since I followed your stuff, and the thing is why I say this, and I just want to I don't just want to flatter you. I really mean it because the difference with you and many other content creators out there, and this is what really inspired me to do YouTube, is you separate opinions and facts. You put out your thoughts and your opinions, but you don't sell opinions as facts and vice versa. And that is something that is really unique to the work you do, and that really inspired me. And I try to do similar things here on the channel. When I have an opinion, I clearly state it, and I separate facts and opinions, and that is something that is really cool.
I think I froze. Can you still see me? Can you hear me?
I can hear you.
Okay, I froze.
But yeah.
I'm in a contemplative state. I'm like, this is a very interesting discussion that we're having right now. So it'll fix itself. We'll just if
not, you can just refresh the browser and I'll bring you back in. That could also. And so he will be back in a second. I want to take the opportunity again to welcome everyone in chat. You guys are amazing. Fantastic to see you all. Karek will be back in a second. And yeah. So people, usually we talk about in the beginning of the show what we all playing. So I want to hear, of course, from you guys what you all are all playing these days. I just started this week playing Weird West, and it is a fantastic game so far. Really enjoying myself. Didn't expect that. And now let me just have a look here. Yeah, Karek will be back in a second. Yeah, but of course I also want to hear from you guys. Sniper. I see Bunty playing Sniper Elite. Yeah,
am I back?
You are back.
I'm sorry if I think I screwed up your framing on your.
That is no problem. It's just a click here with the.
One of the 55 programs quit on the system. But what I wanted to say was, no, I appreciate that, and I think a lot of people can say that like it's your opinion, and then they'll state it as fact right after. They'll be like, "This is all opinion. Here's the facts," and you're like, that doesn't really work for me. What happened one of the reasons why I got into this is because I started seeing a bunch of people where that is what they were doing. Is they were just drawing, or they were doing live journals for reviews. I opened up the game,
Mm.
I played the game. Here's the blah blah blah, and I'm like, that's not a review of what's going on. And Witcher 3, funny enough, you mentioned that, is one of the ones where I was playing it and looking at coverage, and there were people doing 4-minute reviews for a 60-hour
For a game. Yeah.
And it wasn't a shtick. Now it's a shtick where somebody will say, hey, 3-minute review, but they're making sure the data's in there. And but prior to that, that is not what they were doing. They were just getting so lazy on reviews that they knew people would watch anything. And I was mad. I did a couple videos where I'm like, what's going on? Like, how is this acceptable from some of the premier people? So getting into reviews was sort of, that's what I wanted to do, was I wanted to be like, what do I want to see? And then I'd see people talking about music. They'd be like, man, we bought the OST for this, we bought the OST for that. And I'm like, if you bought the OSTs for this and that, and if you love them, why are we not talking about music in the game itself? Why is nobody talking about, if we like the music, why is that not in reviews? That makes no sense. And even now, when I see somebody try to cover music, they'll be like, it's bombastic, or it's cinematic. And I'm like, that's not a coverage. So over time, people who know music will get into it. But yeah, that is one of the things I wanted to do, was come in and be like, okay, I'm going to tell you why I like it. Not that you'll like it, but at least when we get done, you'll be like, I get what he's saying. And that's my hope when I do the review.
You don't stick to that rule of thumb, maximum 8-minute review or so.
Yeah.
If you need 15, if you need 20 minutes, doesn't matter. You get your message across, and that's really unique. Or definitely separates you from a lot of other content creators. And we just started to talk about that prior to the show, but I also want to mention your Friday podcast and the show, because that's also something different. You don't have these typical influencer guests on there. You have just a bunch of people that are passionate for gaming. Some of them probably are only known through your channel.
Probably.
Tell us a little bit about that. Why don't you invite or made a panel out of other well-known influencers? What was the thought process there?
It was like, I've done ones with people. I did Defining Duke. I did Maddie's ham radio broadcast on the sides. But what I found with influencer stuff is it's easy to drag it all down when everybody has the same background. So if there's a problem with YouTube, everybody's talking about YouTube. And honest men, like most of the time when I'm with friends, I want to talk about games. I want to jump over to a movie. I want to jump to a book. And I don't want to feel the desire or request to hit every note for news. Because I can do that in a news video. News videos are so easy. They are the easiest way to make a channel big now. Is I can do news video, and we've done some of them, and it's crazy how easy it is. You can just blurt out a news video and do it. You can blurt out a news podcast. But what I wanted was something where I enjoyed it, so that it gave me energy. And so what I've been doing is, I'm like I told you prior to the podcast, Reg was the first guy to ever post 6 years ago in my Discord. We made it for the patron. And I said, here we go. And he's like, let's do this. And Silver, same exact thing, 5-6 years. Absy, same exact thing, 5 or 6 years now for Absy. Johnny's 4 or 5 years. And I wanted friends on. I wanted people who also understood that when we joke, if Johnny teases me, if I tease Johnny, and because we don't do it much, but I've seen it in podcasts where people get a little offended when they tease each other. They get a little hot. What's crazy is we'll get hot about something rarely, but when we do, every single person there knows that we are actually friends. This is not something that in 6 months you'll see devolve. It's been going on for 4 or 5 years. We've had arguments, blah blah blah. But I got people that also very much understand that video games matter very little. Not to be rude, because I know we're on a video game podcast, but if you compare video games to war or to COVID. Or I've had cancer, so that's where I come from, is like when I see the video games and people are like popping off and they're like, I don't like Carrick's review. I'm like, I don't give a shit. Because it doesn't matter to me compared to everything that really occurs in life. You can still put your work into it and make sure it's done well, but you don't have to hold on to it. And so I got people like Absy, who's had a life. He's moved multiple places. Reg, super interesting guys, had multiple big jobs, has really defined different tastes on games, but takes nothing to heart. Like Reg doesn't take any single thing ever to heart. It's such a weird, unique, non-fan gamer fan thing that you would expect to see.
Yeah.
And Silver's the same way. And it's, dude, I go into Fridays, sometimes I'll be tired and I'll be like, man, we got to do this. I'll make a thumbnail. Sometimes I won't put time into it because we're called the Low Effort Podcast for a reason. We don't even have a name, by the way. We had like 19 names. We still don't even have a name because I'm so low effort on this. But we got in there, and I usually leave so excited, so pumped up for the weekend. Like, we'll go 3 hours and we're still at the end going like, oh my God, and this is happening, blah, 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 blah. And then we leave and we'll jump into my patron Discord and we'll talk for another 3 hours about games. And to me, that's what fuels like everything.
Yeah. And you can tell that passion for gaming, that excitement, and also what you said is different opinions and getting into arguments is actually making a podcast to listen to more exciting than when everyone agrees upon everything. It's you can have different thoughts and views on topics. It just got to be respectful, and you guys do that. You can tell you guys have a certain chemistry that works. And no, it's
well, I met you on Wandering Dutch, right? Or did we meet on Iron Lords? Okay, so all these groups, the one reason you see me interacting with them, because I just want to interact with others. You just won't see me do it. One of the reasons I interact is we may have different opinions, but we don't have different facts. Yeah. And that is not a one-liner. That is not a blurb. That is quite literally how I run everything. Where I'm like, we can have different opinions, but at some point, if we don't have the same facts, then then our opinions matter less and less. Yeah. And so we will have arguments, but a lot of times we won't. And I know some people have got mad and been like, you guys don't argue enough. And I'm like, number one, if I ever go into a podcast with the plan to argue, I'm going to shut the podcast down. Never come back. That's not how I want to run a podcast. Yeah. But number two, as long as we do have the facts, we can be like, I see what you're saying. I don't agree with it. Yeah. I don't agree with it at all. But I get what you're saying. And that's why I liked going on Wandering Dutch, coming here. Exactly. Iron Lords are the same way, where I piece what they're doing, and I'll watch them for a long time before I'll go on a podcast. Because I'll be like, I don't want to go there and have it turn into this uncomfortable bullcrap fest. And all you guys have really actually caused me to be far more energetic than I was in the last 2 or 3 years. Because I think I did Iron Lords first, but Wandering Dutch might have been in there at one time, and then I went on his, saw you. You guys actually got me more invested because I was seeing a side that was quite. It was business. It reminded me of a business just sniping everybody. Everybody in the background. Yeah. And you guys were like, hey man, what's going on? And saying and just talking your talk and loving whatever game you liked. And so that inspired me. Yeah.
Yeah. That's awesome to hear. And I think that's what a lot of podcasters enjoy these days, is this interaction in between, not just the podcast, but also with the community, in the Discords, and we have private chat groups on Twitter and whatever, and we just talk about games and get excited. And it's not just, we don't just come on these shows to, give the news or so. We're just here to talk about video games and the industry, because we're excited for it. And that's definitely something. Glad to hear that you got inspired by that as well. Like sometimes you think like, oh, there's this big time YouTuber with 700,000+ subs, but then at the end you're just also a guy passionate for gaming, and you love to talk about them, and that's Dude, why you're here.
If it's not that way, what kind of like reviewer would I be if I watched where everybody went and then said, I need to get in front of them to lead them to wherever they're going? That makes no sense. And so when you're high up and you're doing well, you should help other people so that they can understand. I didn't get help when I started. I didn't. And there weren't avenues to get help. And the first person who helped me was a person I argued with a lot. And which was I've told you, which was Total Biscuit. Like we had some arguments back and forth, and and then once I started talking to him, I'm like, oh, criminy. I get it. And he helped me out of the blue. Didn't need to. Didn't need to. He never needed to. He helped me out. And I'm like, I get it. Not everybody is, because I went in ready for war in a weird way, because I knew that there was going to be a lot of people who were unhappy about covering things that they hadn't thought of covering, HDR music. People are going to be like, I don't want to cover that. And you get a lot of journalists who will like snipe at influencers on the side, and influencers snipe them as well. But you'll hear this like, I'm not this, I'm not that, blah, blah, blah. And I firmly see that. And so, like, going for the longest time and dealing with all that, and then finding a couple of you guys and new voices that, you know, like at times we may not agree on stuff, but
Yeah.
to me, the idea of new voices is that a lot of times, like, for example, I went on the Iron Lords podcast and one of them told me about a game I'd not ever heard of. And that's sort of par for the course now with so many games being released.
Mm.
But I liked the
Yeah.
game when I played it. If I hadn't talked to him or her, I wouldn't have enjoyed that 8 hours of gameplay, and I would have a lesser life for it, a lesser experience for it. And so to me, the idea of getting in there, I don't watch everybody, but when I start seeing somebody where I sort of gel with them and their attitude, I definitely am like, let's all help each other out and see what we can do. And I definitely get inspired by it's just it's hard though. You get busy.
Yeah. It is. But like you said, it is also something that surprised me when I got into doing YouTube about 2.5 years ago now. Is when I started my channel, and I was always like, oh no, now all these other content creators see me as competition. But in the reality, it is also a community that helps each other out. Not everyone helps everyone, but like you said, if you see that others are genuine, that the other person is just a nice guy gamer that also wants to do content in some sort of form. They help each other out. I got a little help at the beginning. I'm trying to help people out right now. So yeah, that's definitely something.
Dreamcast guy, I just want to get this story
sure.
out real quick, but Dreamcast guy and I've done a couple podcasts together. And the first podcast I ever did, that was exactly the first thing he ever said. I invited him on, and he said, I'm going to be brutally honest, man. I'm blown away you invited me on. And I said, why? And he said, because I considered us competition. I was like, you don't understand. It's not it at all. Because if you excite people about a game, and then they get more excited, they'll have weeks prior to the video game coming out to watch somebody else. And if they don't, I don't care about that kind of fan anyway, because they are just going to stick to one thing. So that's fine. So it's no loss. It is quite simply a game. And more people talking about it means that there might be some guy who's driving around in his car, here's a podcast, doesn't play games, but here's about a game like Odyssey or something where it covers multiple, thousands of miles and 60, 70 hours. And he's like, dude, I love history. I love this.
Yeah.
And everybody's talking about it. Maybe I should jump into games for the first time in my life at 40, which happens all the time.
So,
yeah. But I just want to shout him out because it was fun. It was fun to meet him and have him say that and find out later. It's just not true.
Absolutely. Yeah, man, since we are talking about games, what have you been playing lately? I've seen your Sniper Elite review.
Sniper Elite.
I haven't seen the preview for the Quarry yet. I've seen you uploaded it, but I haven't watched it yet. So what has kept you busy?
Sniper more than anything. Because Quarry was a contained amount that you could play. Sniper Elite, dude, that game, man. Which is so weird because I had some. It's so funny because you'll hear somebody be like, "This is a lot like the games before it," and I'll be like, "Yeah, you probably should have understood that when you saw the number 5 next to the name."
Yeah,
I'm not lying. On Reddit, I saw somebody being like, "Well, it looks like the same old, same old." I'm like, dude, in my review, I distinctly make sure people understand that it's built on the skeleton of the prior games, and it offers a good deal of new stuff, adjustments, quality of life. That's quite simply how sequels work.
Yeah.
And
absolutely,
that is exactly what you get out of this game. You do get Sniper Elite 5. So if you go in expecting fucking Space Harrier or Afterburner, you're probably going to be unhappy. Where's my NHL characters? That's not what this game is. It is a Sniper Elite game. And in that way, it is awesome. It is so fun. I played with Abzi. He's the editor. He helps me on my channel now. We were just playing dude, cackling like little schoolgirls about some kill, about some nut shot from like 2 miles away. It's just like, and you're celebrating. One of the coolest things about this game, one of the few games where most of the games you can't celebrate another person's success because there's no kill cam. And that is one thing I gotta tell people. If you want to do co-op and celebrate one another's amazing achievements, kill cam's the best thing I've ever seen. Because he'd take somebody out at like, I'd scope it and I'd be like 300 yards. He'd be like, okay, and sets his adjustments because we were doing the highest difficulty. Fire, you're going against the wind. You hit the dude slow motion and you are celebrating. It's like high-fiving after, obviously it's not that physically engaging, but it is like high-fiving after somebody scores a football, or whatever sport you may like. It's awesome, man. And We have played
Yeah.
so much of that game. They've got Wave, they've got PvP, they've got PvP/PvE. So that's the
Yeah.
one I've been playing a bunch of.
You've been playing that. Nice. I downloaded it. I haven't started it yet. I finished a couple of other games this week. I finished Metroid Dread on the Switch.
What do you think?
I loved it. I was a little afraid that this is just a filler Metroid for the next Metroid Prime.
Right.
But it is
It's his full
definitely
thing.
a worthy successor to Fusion and Super Metroid and some of
Agreed.
these old school Metroids. I really loved it. Although the final boss was kind of a pain in the ass. No, I thoroughly enjoyed that, and I also finished Dawn of Ragnarok. That Valhalla
the DLC for Valhalla. Yeah.
Yeah, I also enjoyed that very much. I mean, of course, if you're not a fan of the main game, you're not gonna like this one either. But
yeah, if you go in expecting some kind of F1 racing game,
yes,
you're probably gonna be unhappy.
exactly. Because I've got a lot of comments on Twitter on that when I tweeted out I finished it, loved it, and then. Yeah, man, I wasn't a big fan of the main game, but will I like this? Yeah, no, it's more of Assassin's Creed Valhalla, but it's a fantastic addition.
Yeah,
these dream sequences in the main game were fantastic, and now this is an entire add-on build on that. I enjoyed it, and then I just booted up a Weird West yesterday. Very early in, like 3 hours, maybe 3.5 hours, but I'm enjoying it so far. I've seen a lot of people saying it's not for me, that the aiming is weird, and heard a lot of different thoughts.
Fair.
But yeah, I love it. I'm playing completely stealth. I don't know if you're supposed to do that, but I love it. It's a good one so far. Yeah, that has kept me busy.
Dude, Weird West is so good. Stick with that sucker, dude. Because Weird West is one of the few games you will ever see that, dude, I don't even want to ruin it for you. I will just say I had friends who were playing that 16, 32, 48, 64 hours later saying, like, I've never played a game that takes what I did in a prior chapter or story part and mends it so well with the continuation of the title. It is.
Yeah.
I want every game to be that game.
Nice, man. Yeah, I'm definitely sticking with it. It's difficult. It's challenging, actually.
Yeah.
But once you get the hang of it,
and the aiming is wonky. Like there's no mistaking that the aiming is, but you are out there with shot. Like I don't think people understand. You're not necessarily using the marksman style weapons anyway. You've got like a shotgun that's got like a 2-foot barrel. Yeah. That thing's just gonna spit out lead and hope someone's within that cone of death. But it is wonky. I absolutely agree. Some wonky.
Yeah, that's why I try to do the levels so far all in stealth, and yeah.
But you can. Dude, you can do crazy shit. I saw a guy kicked a rock into a lantern. The lantern fell off, then lit on fire near the guys, killed them. I had never thought of that. I was always like shooting the lanterns. But I did kick a rock into a dude's head and knock him out. And I was like, this is insane. Or stuff like you can pickpocket, grab a door key, cause the enemies to follow you into the door, and then stealth back out and lock them inside the room. And you can change entire paths of the patrols by locking one door or opening one. So I would open a door so all the people looked at the door and were like, why is that open? Then they went inside, locked the door behind them.
Locked it.
Peace out, bitches. Yeah, dude, there's so much side stuff you can do in that game and strategy.
Yeah, and the story so far is well told. Like I said, early in something between 3 or 4 hours, but I will definitely continue that over the weekend. Can't wait to play more. Yeah, and that's kept me busy. I see people in chat have played also Forza Horizon 5. I've seen Dying Light 2 mentioned. Yeah, and Halo has been mentioned early in the show, Sniper Elite 5. Yeah, good times. So before we head into the news, and we have a couple of topics here to discuss today. I want to announce something that is actually new for my channel, and that is a sponsor. That is a sponsor. This show found a sponsor, and no, it's not Manscaped. I've seen a lot of podcasts out that get in Manscaped these days. No, it's not this one, but it hopefully helps to make some investments I wanted to make into the channel. And so, yeah, this will only take about 1 or 2 minutes. So please bear with me. Today's show is sponsored by Play Vital. And let me briefly change the overlay. So there you go. This show is sponsored by Play Vital. Play Vital offers different ways to customize your gaming experience. So head over to gamingcobra.com, where you will find all sorts of accessories to enhance your gaming experience. They offer worldwide shipment, and with the code Boxenberger, you will get 10% off on everything they offer. For instance, you can find all sorts of silicone cases for your controllers. This way, you can not just protect them, but easily swap the looks of and feel of your preferred controllers, like this one here. Other things you can find at Gaming Cobra are, for instance, rubber grips that you can attach to controllers to get a better hold on everything. You find these little knobs in different sizes and width, so you can adjust the size and width of your thumbsticks for Xbox and Xbox and PlayStation controllers. And they have different cases for the Switch, like this one here that makes the Switch look like an NES console, and a lot of other stuff. And you will also find faceplates, stickers, skins for the Xbox Series consoles and PlayStation 5, and RGB lights that you can attach to get that customized glow in your gaming setup. So again, head over to gamingcobra.com. You get 10% off with the code Boxenberger and worldwide shipment. And preferably, you use the affiliate link that is in the show note description. This way, you will also get the 10% off and support the show. But speaking of which, it's time to continue with the show. So thanks for being patient, guys.
Good sponsor.
Good sponsor, yeah. It's actually quite quality products that they sent over to check out. The RGB lights are looking fantastic. They perfectly fit into the Series X. I have that in the stand, and then it glows. Or you can
pimp your stand is what it should be called.
Pimp your stand.
Pimp your stand.
It's good stuff. And the rubber grips, I actually have never thought about that, but I love them. I attached some to my PlayStation controller, and it gives.
I have a friend who's got Cheeto hands. You know, like potato chip hands and Cheeto hands, and he'll pass me the controller, and it's like a greased pig. You try to grab it, and it just slips out of your hands. And I actually bought those from a different company with a little sandpaper texture, and those kind of things do help. They really do help. They also make it feel less nasty when you do have multiple people warming up that controller, passing it back and forth.
And if it's too greasy, you just can peel it off and remove it.
Yeah, if it's too greasy, you can remove it. That's amazing, like an absorption layer. So, I should tell my friend about this. He's somebody who's been on the podcast before, and he knows I'm gonna bring it up. But he's got them sweaty hands, man. Like, he gets into that game, you know, where he's like
invested, and then
lifting weights. So it's like got the sweat stains to prove it, you know.
Yeah, well, this sponsorship will run for 4 weeks, and let's see if it helps me to make a few investments. And before we start with some news of the week, I actually want to catch up on some of the super chats. The first of the day comes in from Drawn TJ. He says simply, "Hi guys," and follows up with another one and asks, "Did you hear Jeff Grubb said that Microsoft is in talks with Warner Brothers again?" I haven't heard that.
I will say this: I think people are probably consuming the talk discussion a little incorrectly. They don't stop.
Yeah.
Does that make sense? So
yeah, it absolutely makes sense.
Yeah. So if you're shopping, that's not too surprising. That a company may reach out and meet up with a group, then say, okay, let's go look at other things or decide what we're going to do, meet up again. And so it may seem like things aren't occurring, but especially with Activision and Microsoft, things are going to die out a little bit and then come back and die out. So yes, Microsoft is not only in talks with WB. There's others.
I assume so. I mean, why wouldn't they? The entire industry is kind of on this consolidation trip, and acquisitions happen everywhere, and of course they talk to a lot of studios, publishers, just to not miss out on something. Of course.
Yeah.
Ron TJ also sends in $2 to say hi, Carrick.
Hey, what's up? Thank you very much. $2. That's my $2. You better give it to me. I'm just.
I'll PayPal it to you.
Yeah, you,
right
you better PayPal me that the 50 cents you'll have after YouTube takes its share, then whatever credit card takes its share, then PayPal takes its share. It's like 27 cents.
Don't forget the taxes here in Germany.
Dude, taxes here too. Yeah, because yeah.
So absolutely. All right, man. Let's move on to the news of the week. All right. I see you're digging the jingles.
Yeah, I was getting down with that jingle. That's like a very country Christmas style jingle for around here. I don't know why you chose it, but yeah.
Just wait for the one I have for the community questions. You'll dig that. This week, just the other day, actually, we had a little leak, let's call it a leak by TCL. There were a couple of pictures out on the internet, seeing a presentation where you could see a roadmap for different console generations, and there was another one in there that is apparently coming in 23 or 24 for a new Xbox Series X and S consoles and a PS5 Pro, apparently using an RX 7700 XT GPU from AMD. So, Carrick, I want to hear your thoughts. Do you think we will get enhanced consoles this generation? And do you think this is actually true, this leak?
I think that we will for sure get enhanced consoles. The way they're doing consoles now, it makes no sense not to. They've already pretty much shown that they want to move away from the Xbox original because of some of its issues. I think the S has a couple issues because of memory, but overall it's still considered a gen that they're going to make games for. So the idea of moving forward makes sense. Also, one thing to remember is that when a company starts to put these kind of things out, and you see multiple different companies that have a hand in putting these out, sometimes what they're stating is that in the future, this system may be built on this chip, or for once everything comes together, this system will be on this chip, but it'll be downclocked, but it'll be the same version or whatever. It just depends on how everybody puts together their chips and does their stuff. Some people have said that this means nothing. Obviously, it doesn't mean nothing. That would be ridiculous because it's on a major producer's PowerPoint to indicate something. That something is what we should be translating, which is, does it mean an improved, or does it mean a complete switchover? I don't think it means a complete switchover, but Microsoft in particular is not going to stop at the Series X. It's not going to happen. They're not. I mean, they made it clear. They're like, that's not. We're going to make sure that you can stream on all of them, and we're going to continue to move forward in some ways, very much like a PC.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, and they previously talked about that the classic console generation cycle is kind of over, because now we have all these consoles being back compat, all built upon the x86 architecture. So it's basically like with PC, you just move on. It's upgrades, optional upgrades, and these enhanced consoles worked very well last gen for both of them, for Sony
both of them.
And I've seen also a lot of people say, of course, it's very early and you can't even buy the consoles right now. But, well, live-to-date sales are actually better for PS5 and Xbox Series consoles than last gen. And if you remember last gen, we got 3 years into the generation, already the PS4 Pro. So that would mean 23 this time.
Exactly.
And that's probably a little early, but just guessing here, of course. But yeah, I would be surprised if they don't do these enhanced consoles, because there is just a market for gamers that want the best performance, the best graphics out there. So why wouldn't they do it? If the actual specification of that GPU turns out to be true, I don't know. Could also be a target specification. But I found it really interesting that a TV manufacturer actually kind of leaked. Well, they didn't intentionally leak it, but obviously all hardware manufacturers talk to TV manufacturers because they have to align what kind of HDMI are we using in 3,
Yeah.
4, 5 years?
Yeah.
They are a little bit aware of their roadmaps and what's coming down the line. So it's not unrealistic that TCL is aware of what the plans
No,
are.
it's not
For Sony.
unrealistic at all, or at least to understand the assumption of where they're all moving towards.
Exactly. Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, we will see. We will probably not hear anything official on those consoles until like 6 months or so prior to their launch, because that would just be crazy for the sales of the current systems. But yeah. Agreed. I think it's very realistic. I just want to briefly welcome a new channel member, Fantor Sir. Thank you so much, man, for becoming a channel member. Appreciate it. Yeah, this week actually, and I'm glad that I have you on this week show. A couple of game announcements and teases happened, and I know a lot of people like to speculate about, okay, what could be shown at the showcase or showcases plural that are coming up, or who could a potential new buyout be for Sony or Xbox or whatever. But this time we actually get to talk about a couple of games. The biggest game that was announced this week was obviously Call of Duty Modern Warfare 2, coming out October 28th. The open beta will be first on PS4 and 5. And I've seen a lot of speculation out there whether this game will this year be on Game Pass. A lot of people didn't discuss the game itself, but that was the big talking point. What do you think?
Well, I think it shows how long in the tooth those games are when the discussion is about what format it will come on and not about the game.
Yeah, agree.
I think that does show.
That does definitely show. I'm usually not a big Call of Duty guy. I don't know about you. If you're a big fan, I like to play the campaigns. They're like a good popcorn movie, like 5-6 hours. I'm not a big fan of the multiplayer, to be honest. And I really enjoyed that campaign of Modern Warfare 1. So this is actually a campaign I'm looking forward to. What do you think about it?
I mean, I'm looking forward to, but I'm looking forward to them in the same way that I look forward to something I know I'll forget 2 days after I experience it.
Yeah.
So I will definitely play it. I like the campaign. I'll play I actually, for somebody who doesn't play the multiplayer a lot, I actually find myself doing fairly well, which is awesome. And so I don't have that nervousness of jumping into the multiplayer. But what I do find is that I also don't have any excitement for jumping into the multiplayer. It's so regurgitated all the time that I don't really, and I know it's going away because the next one's going to come. So it's like, it's hard to know that you need to invest anything. I mean, it would be almost like having scheduled marriages every 2 years. It's like at some point, why would you? This one's like you get into that. Well, in fact, you could say like presidential elections. If you know something's coming up in a short amount of time, how much can somebody get done, or how much are you going to invest in the current versus the future? And then you're always shooting for the future. So I'll play it, but I'm not. My interest level's probably really, really low.
Yeah. Like I said, for me, it's a good 5-6 hours. I usually don't buy them day one. I just wait for a sale. That's if I'm not paying full price for a 5-hour campaign. That is not, like you said, is enjoyable but forgettable. That's just it. Yeah, man. Another game that actually I'm really looking forward to. I'm super excited. Was resumed in development, and that is Stalker 2. The dev team, or at least part of the dev team, moved to Prague. They have confirmed that on their Discord. And there was a big interview in a Polish newspaper with one of the lead designers of the game. And I actually asked to my good friend Matt from Matt's Gaming, because he is actually from Poland, and he was able to actually read the article in its native language. Part of the team left to join the army. Of course, like you said earlier, there are other things going on in the world. But they were able to move at least a part of the dev team to Prague, and now they are working on the game again. What do you think about Stalker 2, and particularly, will they be able to keep their release date this year? They targeted, I think, December 8th. What do you think?
I do not know, man. I don't. I mean, I always expect a Stalker game, and any of those, even the Metro games, to always have a bit of jank. And so
Yeah.
I certainly wouldn't want them to release a game that is missing 6 months of jank clearance, 6 months of QA.
Oh yeah. Metro
And I
Exodus could have
in
used those
Metro
additional
Exodus,
six
and I
months.
liked Metro Exodus, but it could have
Absolutely.
used, yeah,
Yeah.
it could have used it. And I think Stalker's a huge game for Xbox too. So
Yeah.
if I were them, see, I'm firmly a believer. I would delay everything. I'd be like delay,
Mm.
delay until we look at it and we're like, this is where we want it.
Yeah.
I would say that I would say it has to impact it, but it could also impact some feature that they might have been thinking of adding too.
Yeah.
So where maybe we'll get the game and you'll be playing it and you won't notice, but maybe they had one or two things. Maybe they had pets, or maybe they had like a
Yeah.
Pokemon game in there, and we just aren't aware of it because they didn't have the time to make it. And I would rather have that, I guess, than have a full delay. But either one, I'm not going to lose any sleep over.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, like you said, if a game needs a delay, I'm always pro delaying, but sometimes it can be tough because it's also a business decision. At the end, it's a studio has to be able to afford a delay. That's also sort of a part of the reality. But yeah, I mean, earlier this year they announced that they want to do NFTs in that game. Then they redacted that, and they said, no, we're not doing NFTs anymore. And it was originally scheduled for April. It's delayed to was delayed then to December. Now they took a almost 3-month break at least in development and only resumed development with part of the game. So yeah, like you said, if they we don't want the game to come out unpolished. So let's hope that they still have the funding to polish that game up a little bit longer and then deliver the vision for it, because I'm very excited. Did you play the first ones?
Oh,
Have you played
dude,
Stalker?
yeah. Stalker's like one of my favorite games. In fact, I know people love Metro, but I was still more of a, at least for the first 2 or 3 games, maybe 2 games of Metro, I was much more into Stalker still. I just it was weird. It was mysterious. It was puzzling. It was a little bit like a Bethesda game where shit would just break and you'd be like, something broke, but I don't know what it was because I don't understand what this game's about. They have their weird own versions of lore. So you crunch into their lore and you're trying to figure out what's an anomaly and how did it come about and like what's going to happen. And you die randomly and be like, dude, there was like an electrical storm. I died. And you tell your friends and be like, well, I died because some weird thing just jumped out of the woods and grabbed me. I have no clue what's happening. And that was some of the fun. That was some of the fun.
It was.
So I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah, me too. We used to use Stalker as kind of the benchmark for our PCs, because it was just as demanding like Crysis.
It was demanding. It was very demanding, yeah, for sure.
Yeah. But those were great times, yeah. So yeah, let's hope that they get the time they need to finish and polish that game up, so that we get the game we all want it to be. Yeah. Another game was teased this week from Xbox, actually. And that is something Stranger Things related. They tweeted a short clip of that Gorgon from Stranger Things coming out of the Xbox logo and going back in. I don't know if you've seen that tweet. So yeah, a lot of speculations out there. What could that mean? What do you think? What is that tease about?
Yeah, I mean, I talked about it when I was on Colt's podcast because that's when I heard about it. I don't really want to say because there's some stuff I'm hearing that that was prior to that, and when it came up and then I saw that, I was like, "Are you kidding me?" Because that would be huge news. But we haven't got the huge news that you would expect after that tweet. So I don't know what the wording and some stuff that I've been hearing, I was thinking one thing, but I'm like, you know what? Maybe it's just that moment where you think everything is matching up, but it's just synchronicity, where you're like, my windshield wipers are going perfectly to the beat. This proves I'm in the Matrix. And it's like, no, it proves that they're going to the beat. That's it. Like, calm down. So I'm just sort of taking a wait and see approach on that one. But I mean, anything Stranger Things I'm interested in because I love the show.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Can't wait for season 4 to coming tomorrow, right?
I think so. Yeah.
Yeah.
And a
My
big one,
wife
right?
and
Season 4 and season 5
yeah,
are both considerably huge. So yeah,
yeah.
that'll be
They
fun.
have these. I've seen the length of the episodes. Like the
Mm-hmm.
first 6 or 7 episodes are all, I think, 80 minutes long, and then they
Yep.
have like full movies. The rest of the like
On the
2.5.
podcast, I don't do these on YouTube, but I put them
Yeah.
on Anchor and Spotify and iTunes for the podcast, where I break down every single episode, because I just like
Mm.
that show, and break down the episodes, what happens, and how it all just sort of works so well together. I'm really hoping, I'm crossing my fingers, they don't jump the shark terribly and it becomes something that's just like, oh, this is terrible.
Yeah. Hopefully. My wife and I, we already asked our my mother-in-law whether she can take the kids that
Oh, so
evening,
you
and
can
then
have a
we
weekend of
binge
watching.
watch the season and have some takeout. I also enjoy that show very much. Can't wait. So yeah, we will see what that Xbox tease means. I don't. I've seen a lot of people say, "Yeah, we will probably find out when the show starts," but I don't think so.
Hey, do me a favor, could you? Can
Yeah.
you, when the show comes out, can you ping me behind the scenes on Twitter and remind me, and I'll get you in on the podcast discussion for the show?
Okay. Okay. Sure. I will do.
I'm putting it on you because you're much better at remembering. It'll be 6 months from now, and I'll be like, was I gonna do something? So yeah.
Yeah.
When it
I
comes
will.
out and you've watched a couple episodes, ping me and be like, I'm available,
Will
and
do
I'll
so.
put together an audio podcast for the podcast.
Okay. Yeah. Let's do it.
Yeah,
I will ping you. Okay.
okay.
Fantastic. Looking forward to it. Man, your favorite game, Cyberpunk, got some news this week. Data miners found hundreds of lines of dialogue
Yeah.
in the game, and it looks like the first DLC will have around 7 main missions. I'm not talking about any story spoilers that came out of these data from these data miners, but that DLC that is rumored to come or expected to come out in 23 will probably have 7 main missions. That's a big takeaway for me, at least, from this. Now, here's the question I want to ask you. I know your passion for Cyberpunk, and if that DLC comes out with 7 main missions in 23, isn't that way too late? I mean, that's more than 2 years after launch. What do you think? And is it too little? 7 missions doesn't sound. Main missions, of course. There's side content, or probably will be side content as well. But what do you think? Does Cyberpunk have a chance to come back with this?
Well, I mean, they have a lot of purchasers, maybe not a lot of players, but it did sell insanely well.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of people sitting on their copies, whether they played it or not. I joke around about Cyberpunk a lot, but my hatred is more for the company's shenanigans, their complete lies, and then a lot of people pretending the game was good on day one, technically saying I got no bugs, and you could see them getting bugs on streams. One of the major streamers was like, I haven't had a bug, and a car literally just shoots into the air. And I'm like, okay, dude, I don't know what you're talking. It was just a disaster. They've been trying to fix it up. Mods have fixed it up, ignoring the mods part, but they've been trying to fix some stuff up. Hey, you know what? If the DLC is good, I will just say that the game that is Cyberpunk now with no mods, just the way it is, right?
Yeah.
Just like it is not very good in my book. It's not super enjoyable. I don't think the skills are very enjoyable. They're there. Some are cool, but they've really dumbed it down compared to like what you would hope you would see in a game like that. So for me personally, going back to it would probably not be high on my list. But I think that a lot of people bought that damn game. They're sitting on a tremendous
I was
number.
one of them. Yeah.
They're sitting on a tremendous number of users waiting. But I don't know how many, I can check actually right now on Steam to see how many are playing. But I just don't know how many are going to go back for that. Maybe a ton, right? We just don't know. Not until it happens.
It is something. I mean, when was it, in February or March? They kind of stealth dropped that next gen patch, and I was actually thinking
10,000 people are in
Oh.
playing it currently. So I mean, that's Nothing to sneeze at. Sorry, continue.
No. Thanks. Yeah, no, it's nothing to sneeze at. Considering that it's not a multiplayer game. But it was also something that they said they want to bring out after the game, a multiplayer aspect of Cyberpunk, and we haven't heard anything about that. And the next gen patch was really kind of stealth dropped in the middle, in between Elden Ring and Horizon Forbidden West, and nobody had actually time to go back. I was always, in my mind, I was always thinking like, yeah, when they bring out that next gen patch and probably a little bit more content, they will kind of have that soft relaunch of the game and rectify some of the mistakes of the game at launch. But they stealth track dropped it. Nobody talked about that patch and then just moved on. And yeah, so I'm not sure if Cyberpunk will come back.
Hey, it's also a sign of the times, guys. Like, here's the thing: the game could turn out to be awesome, but there's a lot of competition now.
Yeah.
So why go to that when you're playing Horizon Zero Dawn, which or Horizon Forbidden West, which maybe you haven't played and you want to experience, or you haven't played Elden Ring, you want to experience. But by the time you're done with Elden Ring, you jump to Horizon. By the time you're done with both of those two, you can go back to a patch for a game that's notoriously fickle, or you can play some new indie game you like. Competition, other than No Man's Sky, and I've got very good hooks into why No Man's Sky, this is working for them, where it's not working for anybody else. So other than No Man's Sky, very few games can do that kind of soft relaunch and grab people, unless, this is going to sound bad, unless it's the mob wanting to watch gladiators die. And that's what happens with Cyberpunk, is that there is a strange thumbs up, thumbs down. There's a lot of YouTubers that make their bread and butter on reporting problems. Like, that's just their thing. They're like, splashy intro, let's talk about how terrible this is. Yeah. They can drive a lot of people to see how terrible it is. But true content and fans, we'll have to see, man. We'll have to see.
Yeah, we'll have to see. It just came to my mind because 23, we know it's gonna be stacked. There are the big role RPGs expected in that year. We know, of course, Starfield, but others will come out that year, and it's getting harder and harder for Cyberpunk to have that second wind. And I mean, I enjoyed it. It wasn't what it was supposed to be. Definitely not. And obviously there were bugs and issues with the game. I was just playing like the entire time I played that game. I was like, man, so much potential if it just came out in a different state. Even with some of the features missing.
Dude, let me explain something. And this pops up in reviews all the time, and I tried to point it out. When you experience anything, let's say you're watching a movie. You're watching the movie, and it's a great movie, and then suddenly 30 seconds are missing.
Yeah.
That would distinctly interrupt the flow of the movie.
Absolutely.
If you take the time of 60 hours, you condense it to 2. I think one day I was doing the math, and it was like that would indicate 2 10-second periods of a 2-hour movie just disappearing when you had to crash or reboot. That would be tremendous to a movie goer, because they expect that 2 hours just gone. You don't have the data. You don't know what's going on. But what goes on with bugs is that what they do is they have a tendency to interrupt the flow of experience for everything. You get a new skill, it crashes. Can you remember what skill you were buying? And, maybe it didn't save the skill tree upgrade, so you have to go back in. Now you're wasting time doing that. And then when you jump back in, the freshness of the quest you were just on and the battle you were just about to do dies. You almost kill a boss, game crashes. Now you got to do that boss again. Those things absolutely impact the basically the smoothness of that interaction. And when we try to say these things are interactive, and that's why they're amazing, I love interactivity. Video games are awesome because, like a choose your own adventure book, I'm changing the world. But if your interactivity, which is a cornerstone of changing the game world, is impacted by game bugs, which is a negative, and it's a cornerstone of interacting with the game world, in a weird way, those two things intersect and cannot technically, one has to replace the other. And so every time a bug comes in, the interactivity of what I just experienced sort of goes away.
Yeah.
And that's the problem with Cyberpunk, is I believe if all those bugs were missing, nobody would say it was a classic, even though the IP is connected. But I do believe people would be like, okay, it's a Singularity, maybe one of the worst Deus Ex games, or the ones that people don't like as much, is somewhere around there. And sort of just enjoy playing it and throwing some skills up. Loving the Cyberpunk world because there's some really cool characters in there. You get to drive around. It would have been a thing, and it would have been something to build on, which, by the way, is a lot like Witcher 1 and 2, which were not spectacular. I liked Witcher 2, but Witcher 1 and 2 were not. Witcher 1 in particular is a rough go. Like Witcher 1 is like a teenage girlfriend, man. You're just like, this is rough, but I'm trying to work through it. And each relationship,
the story was
better.
Great, but that's about it.
Gameplay was I liked Witcher 2 a lot, not as much as 3, but I did like Witcher 2 a lot. But that's where they build. That's what you do. And what they tried to do is go from third person IP controlled fantasy world to first person IP controlled cybernetic city world. That indicates that your entire engine, by the way, because it wasn't Unreal 5, it wasn't Unreal at that time. I don't believe it was
their Red Engine.
The Red Engine. That means your entire tech changes, and people don't realize that you might have 10 people on your floor who are amazing developers for forests. They understand forest, they understand environments, they understand how to make the urban change into the rural when you're walking towards a village.
How you light environments.
Oh, dude, the first time you see like a wood chopping mill near, far away from a city, but as you get closer, you see those signs of urban environment. You're like, whoa, it's slowly. It's not just a city, ta-da, like we saw in the old days. Then to go into a city game and try to figure out, let alone figure out FPS. You have culling and pathing, which are one of the reasons why you saw most of Cyberpunk's buildings closed, was because the pathing is bad on its own. Look at the pathing right now for Cyberpunk NPCs and tell me it is not utter trash. It's not because they're bad. It's because they jumped, and people don't want to admit it, but jumping an environment and the entire framework in which you play first to third changes everything in how you deliver a title. There was no guarantee they were going to be able to do it. And I think that people just thought, oh, Witcher 3, that means every game from CD Projekt Red is going to be amazing.
It's magically amazing. Yeah.
If that were true, we would be playing the best games ever every day, because everybody would build that knowledge, and we would literally be at like the critical point. It would never be a bad game.
No, true. When it came out, I had this similar discussion about the verticality, because this is a vertical world. The Witcher was basically a horizontal world, and it's just a major difference in how you build and build up that world, because a lot of people were saying, they should have done that in third person. Yeah, but then the world design would be completely different, because you have to design.
Control would be different. Gameplay would be different.
Everything.
People with third person camera cheat all the time. Like there's ways to, like, no, first person's great. It's that it was a lot to be expected from them, and that's not me. I don't give any kudos to, like, I'm not making any kind of excuse for them. That's for damn sure. But it is that if I was on a team, and I've been on teams where we changed databases, and that was it, without even a graphical front end, and we were like, oh man, we need to hire people who even understand this brand new thing. And what do you do with the people that aren't? That's another thing. A lot of companies are like, okay, we don't remove Joe. He's got all this experience in how our worlds work, how our company works. So we got to train him for 6 months on this brand new thing. And I by the way, this is tied into Unreal 5. It is absolutely one of the reasons, because we talk to devs all the time on the podcast. We just had a writer on who talked about it, who writes video games. And all of them have stated the same thing. The reason why people are looking at Unreal 5 and going like, oh, thank God, it's because they have been stymied for so long with mid-game adjustments and switching engines between games and doing all of that kind of stuff. And the ability for them to look and say, let's create now. Versus let's construct. And I think that 2 years of constructing your own engine is pretty much gone. For the most part, not all, but I think a lot of companies are going away from it.
I agree 100%. I work here. I'm an engineer in real life, and I can't speak about the company I work in, but we have done some calculations for a certain product and we have had our own software. We developed that like 15 years ago, and then iterated on it and improved upon it. And whenever we onboard someone into the team, we have to train him, of course. And I made a decision for our team that about 2 years ago, when the pandemic started, this has to stop, because we can't onboard these people anymore. With working from home, it's nearly impossible
Yes,
to
nearly
bring them
impossible.
on that handcrafted and software tool, calculation tool that we have for certain things. So we bought an expensive on the market product that is available out there, but now we can have trained people from the market. We can hire people that know I work with this and this tool. I know my ways around it. Hey, perfect. We don't have that onboarding time, and I always think it's probably similar in the gaming industry. If you have your own proprietary engine that can help you with some things, because you can directly go to the engine program and say, hey, listen, I want to do this and that, and they can optimize for that. But in general, so many people work on these AAA games, and you can't train everyone. And having an industry standard definitely helps there.
Dude, what kind of fucking world would it be if every single bookmaker had different paper and you had to like train people on using the paper? It's so stupid. It's so stupid that we still push this, and you'll hear people be like, "Oh, Unreal 5, everybody will be looking the same way." That is a valid worry, because the 360 and PS3 and PS2 and Xbox, when they came out, they had very limited texture budgets. And so what would happen was you just had a situation where a lot of browns and blues, and that was also the art design at the time, sort of became a thing. That won't happen. It's not a part of it anymore. Unreal or Crytek, any of these engines, any of these big major engines, the reason why companies are going to them and other people are going to Unity is because of the ability, as you said, to be more flexible, which is the desire of the consumer. That's one of the problems, is the consumer says, I want you to do this, this, and this, but you're trying to do this other thing. Well, I'm going to stop you.
Yeah.
And you're like, well, you just asked for 3 things that are connected to that thing. And you'll get a lot of more morals being involved. Well, how dare you? We don't want you to go to Unreal, because here's the thing. At some point, to create, you have to say, what exactly are we going to waste our time on? And I can tell you right now, talking to a dev who told me about a 3-year engine development, the entire team spent 3 years making an engine that they then decided not to use. He told me, he was like, it was the most heartbreaking thing, because he didn't want to continue using it, but he knew it was so devastating to go home and be like, most of it's gone. Most of it was gone. It just wasn't going to be transferable. You know, some of the work, the writing, that kind of stuff, they have scripts, they have, but dude, we need this kind of stuff. Not just Unreal. We need other software for
competition.
Sure, I'm excited for it, man. Because I made something in Unreal, man, and I'm a doofus, man. Like, I still stub my thumb, stub my toe. So obviously I shouldn't be leading the nation, but I would, dude. I was playing Unreal, or I was messing around in Unreal, and I got a character to jump on something, and I can tell you the creativity. Imagine this. We're all playing. We all want to make a game, right? We're podcasters. We're stupid. Like, we love to tell people how to do their job, but we don't know how to fucking do it. Let's be honest, right? But imagine if all 4 of us got together in a podcast, and you guys came up with an idea that I felt was like, wow, that's legit. You could go to Unreal and gray box it. For people who don't know what gray boxing is, that's basically just, you don't even worry about textures. You just sort of like throw down level structures so people can get the idea of, like, I would go around this corner. You don't worry about textures. You could gray box that in 6 hours. I talked to a dev who told me it would take up to 1 week to do something he is now doing in 4 hours in 1 day, and assumes that after he writes sort of a optimization script, he's going to get it down to 2. Do people think that guy's now just gonna be sitting back, fucking having a Mai Tai and not working?
Exactly.
No, he's gonna be doing more for the game. He's gonna QA more stuff. He's gonna be able to communicate.
Prototype of different versions, play around with different ideas, and
it's so fucking awesome. It's like, this is why Unreal, like, a lot of people, when they watch the channel, I'm always talking about engines. That's because I love tech. I don't, but in the end of the day, guys, if you're a Digital Foundry, you're zooming in 800% and you're looking at a single pixel, great. Maybe you care about the engine. And I love John. I've had him on the podcast multiple times. I love that guy from Digital Foundry. But that's one place where, just because you can do that doesn't mean that has any real impact on the game. What I care about is the game good? And I don't care about zooming in 400% on a single pixel. unless I'm in that kind of discussion. But that kind of discussion is separate from, is the game good, and what it can deliver. I can't wait. Telltale, guys, they would tell stories about it taking 9 hours to do animation. It takes less than 10 minutes to do in Unreal.
Yeah.
Efficiencies,
I agree. Telltale,
pay more to the devs. Devs get more games out. Companies make more money. Yeah.
Win. Yeah, no, I agree. Engines are a tool, and a tool should help me to do stuff quicker, faster, better. They shouldn't, and I, as the guy who uses the tool, aka the dev, in this example, he shouldn't worry about fixing the engine or the tool he's using. Yeah, if you buy a hammer, you just want to use that hammer. You don't want to work. Could I make the stick a little bit wider?
Yeah. What if that doesn't make it exactly. That's a very good example. Is a hammer.
Yeah,
very good.
Exactly. So super chat from Dave Ramos comes in, and on that topic, so many examples of custom engines equals delays. Would love to hear your thoughts on what motivates game co's choosing to go with custom engines.
Can I answer
follows
this?
Up? Yes.
Oh,
let me just read the follow-up super chat. Not against custom engines. I don't understand why there isn't naturally occurring consolidation of game engines. So please, you take this one.
Sorry, I'm drinking chocolate milk. You always got to have a little. You got to have something enjoyable during a podcast.
Absolutely. For me, it's this isotonic drink here.
There we go. We just covered this recently. One of the big reasons why for a long time there was not consolidation was because PPC chips were being used in consoles. They were not x64. So these chips were their own custom things, the RISC processor stuff, the cell that you got on the PS3. And what was happening was sometimes people were writing their own custom things for everything. Additionally, I know people hate DirectX, but the fact is that when you don't use that, you do have a lot of people writing all their own stuff.
Yeah.
And that, as we've gotten and moved forward and more people engage in the entertainment, what happens is basically a fill rate situation happens, meaning I can continue to create and customize stuff that is discrete for me, but that means I can't move for the next consumer as fast. That includes AMD, Intel, and so forth. And so what they do is they all look at stuff and say, how would we work this out? Now, Microsoft got screwed by NVIDIA, which is why Microsoft and NVIDIA will never work again. Microsoft's been very clear. The Xbox original, the old big boxy one, was a disaster directly due to NVIDIA. So they went with AMD. And then after that, they started looking and they were like, okay, let's go with x64 because the way games work now, it basically used to be more performant to use a PPC chip. Now it's more performant, especially when you have Zoom and fucking other things opening. People don't realize when you change to a multimedia machine, then you do x64 is a better style chip for those kind of things. And so they've moved to that. And that's why we're starting to see people look at these because Unreal can write a transferable engine for all those. That was impossible prior because it wouldn't just be a port. It would be a full-on ground up, which the Switch has had issues with at times. And in the past, Xbox had issues and Sony had issues. Now that we've moved to this, I expect to see this everywhere. I don't see anybody going with anything custom, and I see the proprietary engine still sticking around. Decima engine is great, Death Stranding 4. But I will tell you this, Death Strandings and Decima 4 and the games that they usually make with that engine are a very particular type, and there's a reason.
Yeah.
They have very particular throughputs. They have very particular flow where it works for a third-person certain specific thing where it may not work as well for something else. Where Unreal maybe doesn't get the extra 2 FPS that they might get in some awesome scene. But I can honestly tell you, I played Frozen Wilds. Have you played Frozen Wilds?
I have played Frozen Wilds.
Oh, sorry, Frozen Wilds and Forbidden West.
And I also enjoyed Forbidden West.
Yeah, I just don't see that Unreal couldn't deliver that. I really don't. And we'll have to see how that works out. But that's why, man. And
you would have probably a different look to it because just the way how
assets are done different and photogrammetry might be used even more, which might make it look less.
And post-processing, like sharpening, anti-aliasing, it's just done a little differently. So you would get
Dude,
bit
it's
of a
gonna be
different
so
look.
exciting! I can't wait.
Yes,
I'm so excited
me
for this,
too.
man. I'm so excited for people not wasting 2 years making an engine.
Absolutely, absolutely. And the big question for me is just which are going to be the 3, 4, 5 main engines that we will see on the market. It becomes just we have of course Unreal, we have Unity, maybe Crytek. I don't know whether they get that engine. It is powerful, but it is apparently a pain in the ass to work with. Yeah, but I also assume that Sony has a lot of proprietary engines. I mean, Naughty Dog has a proprietary engine, Insomniac has one, the Decima engine. They have a lot of proprietary stuff. But I think that is the reason why Unreal was announced along with the PS5 and that PS5 demo. They want to consolidate that engine as well. Yeah, I
don't think
agree
people
that
realize
it's
just how
exciting.
huge of a change it was to go from PPC to X65. It's not even the same
Mhm.
art. There, one is, I mean, in order and out of order instructions are vastly different in where they get their speed. That's why we were hearing super fast speeds for the consoles, and people were like,
Yeah,
"If this console's so fast, why can it not do this or that?" And you're like, "You're not understanding. It's a completely it's completely different style of chip and
yeah,
how it was working. And now that they're all together, for example, you'll have people be like, "Oh, well, this custom engine, maybe it lets this dev do this one thing." That is absolutely true.
mm,
However, with Unreal, what would happen is that developer would still be able to do the same thing. They would just have to take different steps, but they might
yeah,
also have all this time let me give you an example. I watch GDCs religiously, and I tell
yeah.
everybody if you get a chance, go to the YouTube,
Similar. Yeah.
go to GDC, watch all the Spider-Man making of Spider-Man ones,
Mhm.
and they really do put their hand out to get slapped. They don't. They're
Yeah.
very open, and I love it. But they talk about a disastrous moment where they couldn't figure out where they were losing all this performance, and it's something that you would push one button for in Unreal, and you would find.
Mm.
And they wasted weeks on it trying to figure out what had happened, and it was
Yeah.
one button.
Yeah.
And that's the other thing is the tool checkers, the ability to go, the integrity checkers to go in and verify that this is doing what it's supposed to do. And it all still allows for C plus, or what is it, C sharp,
C sharp. Yeah.
programming for stuff on the side anyway. So you can still do your own stuff, whatever you want to
Yeah.
do. It's just that its upfront things are unbelievably
It
more
is.
efficient.
It is, and that's the big thing now with Unreal 4 and 5, that the script language is actually the same, so stuff can transfer over. That
I
was
moved
the
my
big
stuff to
problem.
Unreal 4, and it was just instant.
Yeah, and that was the big problem with Unreal 3 because they had a change in the script language, and it was not compatible, and this was awful to upgrade. But of course, Epic is also learning. And that's the thing about the Unreal Engine. They talk to so many developers and they get so many input that this is really an optimized engine, and it's every single studio has a hard time to follow up with that.
I can't wait till CryEngine and all these other guys try to compete and will compete. There'll be some,
Yeah.
and that's what helps everybody. And internally, by the way, if people are worried about somebody will still do a custom, and their desire will be that they want to compete against the big ones, but they want to figure out a reason why. One of the problems currently is that it used to cost money to get Unreal. Now they have a completely different section, and a lot of companies look at that and go, dude, because I can tell you right now, a lot of people who built custom engines would not have built them had they been able to get a particular engine that they wanted for free. But there was a lot of different licensing, a lot of different control. And now we're getting into a point to where everybody agrees it just makes sense. It makes much more sense for everybody to work together. Even if our end products compete, then it does for everybody to work separately because we're so slow. Like everything is so glacial.
Yeah, agree. Like you said, man, I can't. It's exciting. I can't wait to see.
This is where I can talk.
CryEngine and
CryEngine is. There's some awesome stuff about CryEngine. I've heard the same thing you have. But I don't have any touch. I've just heard that there is some cool stuff it does, but that it is epically difficult to work with.
Yeah. I've heard that as well. The CryEngine is powerful, but a pain in the ass.
But what if
to
they
work
fix
with.
it, dude? What if they do? And what if they figure out a way to offer even more? Like, it's so cool, man. It's so cool because that means Podunk Carrick, who has no skill with tech stuff like these guys can still go, but I have an idea and be able, I don't know if people know what prototyping is, but like when you come up with an idea, maybe you want to show a person you're on a whiteboard sometimes. You're like, the character does this. And you're like, all right. But in Unreal, a person who has an idea could say, grab a couple blueprints, which are amazing. One of the best parts about Unreal. Grab a couple blueprints, throw a couple things together, and maybe get your shtick. Blick's Times Cat was able to reverse time. So imagine you were like, I want to make a game like that where I can reverse time. You're able to make something basic and show a person that glimpse to where a game may be funded where it would not have been funded before. And
if you make it in a PowerPoint. Yeah, exactly.
Oh, dude, in PowerPoint, where like Abe's Odyssey, they've talked about, when scripting or showing stuff for those small indie games, and it's like sometimes a big company looks and goes, man, I don't know what you're talking about. Like, it just doesn't translate well.
Yeah. And then just throw a short clip of a prototype that you can whip up in a real quick,
walk around, or just see the idea, the core idea.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, absolutely. It's gonna do, or Unreal and the other big engines. Unity is also doing great things these days.
And I think Unity's fixing their issues. Unity was always considered insanely easy to create, but difficult to optimize. And there was a lot of, whenever I got a Unity game for review, I was always like, oh, here we go. There'd be FPS issue, right? I was always waiting for something. And I can say that is lesser now. It is still something that I know, because I do check what engine I'll be reviewing, because some don't hook very well for FPS, so you want to make sure you know what you're covering. But what's some other ones? There's Crytek. Lumberyard is Crytek, right? And that's the Amazon one. It was just a fork. So there's so you have Crytek, you have RPG Maker, which is the really cheap one that people use for Steam RPG games, which is, by the way, I saw a guy make a level in that. It was awesome. Like that shit was, dude, he went online, he like grabbed a stone, like it looked like a stone texture, and then he's able to just twist it, instantly turn it into a battleground, he put enemies in it in seconds, and he was just like, okay, here's a new level for my game. And I was like, that's pretty sweet.
Nice.
What other ones?
There's this one, how do you pronounce it? Godot? Something like that. It's similar to Game Maker.
Okay.
Yeah, I've seen that, but then
anybody in chat, if you guys know any.
Yeah, if you guys have another idea about the Snowdrop engine, Ubisoft.
Snowdrop.
Ubisoft.
Snowdrop. And what was the other one? They have, what's the one for Unreal or for Assassin's Creed? Isn't that
Oh yeah,
that's not Snowdrop. That's
hang on, I need to Google that real quick.
It's oh my god, we talk about this all. I hate when you get that.
Anvil, the Anvil engine.
Anvil, thank you, man.
Yeah,
Anvil, thank you. So gotta hate that tip of your tongue crap. It feels so uncomfortable. Yeah. So it's gonna be cool to see, man. And I can't wait to see people who are fired up about games. Being able to, just make something themselves, man. It's
absolutely.
It's awesome.
One studio that just came to my mind is Asobo. They made their own engine for A Blake's Tale, and the sequel is coming out this year with Requiem. Can't wait to see what kind of improvements they made to that engine. It's exciting,
remember,
man.
Asobo also made Flight Sim, bro.
Yeah.
You want to talk about some technically... Dude, these guys are like sitting back going like, I got an idea. Let's make a game about fucking rats. And they're like, okay. And then he's like, wait a minute, I love flying planes. Wait, rats can't fly planes. He's like, fuck it. Let's talk to Microsoft. Let's make a Flight Sim game. You're just like, dude, these guys, what the hell is going on over there?
Yeah.
Like, I remember seeing their name pop up and being like, well, that can't possibly be the same like, that makes absolutely no sense. And then you go in, you're like, damn, son. Like, even if they were given some of that technology, what we got out of that, it's them working on it. You're just like,
Absolutely.
whoa,
Yeah.
those are some wonderkin over there. Like those are some crazy ass Steve Jobs motherfuckers over there who are just like, I got an idea that'll revolutionize the world, and like, so do I. Well, let's race to the end of the hallway, and whoever wins gets their idea. And you're like, but both ideas were amazing.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Absolutely. That's how I imagine John Carmack in in his early days.
Yeah. Dude, I always joke about Carmack talking to devs at a GDC I saw, and Carmack's like, he's talking about VR, and he's like, well, technically we take the buffer from the VR and we could augment the motion polarity of a fucking pixel and then quantize it, just throwing words around. Yeah. And we could get 3 times the FPS. And you can see developers, good, smart people, in the room looking and going and just chuckling to themselves because he was he's not always right. It's just and just like every scientist is not always right. What happens though is that their ideas move the discussion forward, and then people build on that and maybe only get 10% of what he's saying, but they're like, I think and now we have motion interpolation for VR, which can help systems that aren't super powerful. So
it tech. Speaking of John Carmack, also an engine. Can't wait to see what they do over the next years. Yeah, man, we got a little off the rails. I missed one super chat coming in from John TJ. He says, I hope EA gets bought by Microsoft after the deal. Yeah, man, I have that in the backup topics for the show in case we are going through the show too fast. That their EA was allegedly pursuing a sale and has talked to Apple, Amazon, Disney, and of course then the discussion always comes up, why is Microsoft buying them? Yeah, man, I don't know if I want them to buy another publisher, honestly. I said this on a video I made a while ago. When you look at Xbox in 2017, they had like 5 studios, and they had like a little bit more than 2,000 people working in the entire division, including all the studios. And then they bought in 2018 all these studios. Of course, the staff count went up, and they bought Bethesda. And after Bethesda, they were at around 10,000 employees, and they still haven't onboarded all of them properly and implemented them, obviously, in their game release schedule, in their philosophy, in their culture, in everything. And now they get Active Bliss with another 10,000 employees. So they basically increased the amount of employees within 4 years by a factor of 10. And to manage all that, the onboarding, the culture and everything, they should just work on getting that on track before buying other publishers. Just my thoughts. It is a tough thing to do. All right, man. I wanted to ask you about a couple of other games that got news updates this week. Callisto Protocol. Have you heard of that? It got a cover story from Game Informer this week. It's a horror game made by the guys that did Dead Space.
Wait, what's it called?
Callisto Protocol.
And is it out?
No, it's on track for this year. It was this first hands-on review impressions, that the cover story from Game Informer. Man, you like Dead Space? You're Dead Space fan?
I'm not in love with it as much as everybody else, but I don't. It's not a bad game.
Okay. Yeah, I really enjoyed it, and it's basically these guys making another one. But yeah, then we talk about that somewhere else. No problem. Okay, man. Jeff Keighley, you know Jeff Keighley?
Yeah.
He said something that I wanted to ask you and discuss with you this week. He said he expects that this year there will be less third-party events from the third-party publishers over the summer. So last year, obviously, we had Square doing one, we had Ubisoft, EA, all these publishers, third-party publishers doing their own events, and apparently that's not going to happen. So if that's the case, that means that we basically have like the Keighley Summer Show thing, the Xbox Showcase, and obviously we will get a PlayStation Sony event somewhere later this year. Last year that there's in September. Do you think that these third-party publishers will just go on to one of these shows, or will they still try to make something on their own, like a Ubisoft, like Square?
I think that less than doesn't mean zero. And so I think a lot of people took that as typical game fans do, which is there is no middle ground.
Absolutely.
You're against us or for us.
Like zero, yeah.
It's absolutely what happens. So what his discussion also probably should have taken into account, but it's too hard to do on Twitter, is that if a game releases last year, there's a good chance that company doesn't have a game to show you this year.
Yeah.
Right? Just when you look at how game releases happen.
Absolutely.
In fact, we've seen it many times where it's taken at minimum 2, if not 3 years after the initial hubbub or announcement or discussion before we do see something that is beyond a font and a trailer and a fairy for like Fable.
Yeah.
So I think a lot of people read it in a really weird way. And that is, by the way, prior to COVID and prior to a war. So you have massive changes globally, that have affected the tech market. Then you have cryptocurrency and you have the huge deficit in GPUs that people were having, all those kind of issues. So you have these 3 massive issues here. Will we see less? Possibly, but it could be one less. I do believe, though, that a lot of companies looked at it and realized something Jeff isn't bringing up. It's much easier than going to an event. So the trade-off is you can record something and you can call it an event and have an influencer or one of the developers talk, and that's your event. And if you do good, you can do very well. Or you can do the same thing and give it to Jeff or give it to Xbox if they want it during their showing, or give it to Sony. And that's something I've seen happen. Like we've had people on the podcast, that's what they've done with they've had that choice.
Yeah.
But Square's always been known for shit E3s as well. Remember, Square was one of the companies that had a 45-minute video. They didn't even have anything. It was quite literally, here's our event. It's all on video. So the internet and Twitch has adjusted, and YouTube and all that have adjusted also how companies can do it. So I think that some companies are holding off. Some companies will go. There's a lot of people who are working on games, guys. You can't release a game and then be like, next year. Well, you can, but it's hard, unless we're all using Unreal, by the way. This is where everything fucking fits together. People don't want to admit this. But if you want one thing, you're going to have to bite it off somewhere else. And I think that people don't realize that, game development can take a while. Many of these companies are working on one game. So Square just released Guardians through their, systems. They've got Outriders, whatever that's called. Outriders, thank you. And they got the DLC coming. They've got Avengers and whatever disaster happened there. So maybe they'll sit it out.
Final Fantasy and Forspoken are also coming.
And Forspoken, which the rumor is that's delayed. So
true.
We don't know, right? Worst, not as bad of a name for a game as Avowed. Avowed is quite literally the worst game name ever. But Forspoken is right up there.
I didn't even know that Avowed is an English word. I just thought this is a made-up name.
You know why
or
you
something.
didn't know? Because probably 90% of English speakers don't know it either. It's very much the worst. If it had said Pillars of Eternity Avowed, I can tell you no one would, because Pillars of Eternity is where the world's going to be, is where Avowed is supposedly based.
Eora.
I don't know why they thought Avowed sounded good, but these guys are the same guys who are like, Gears of Shadow Warning. They come up with these names that are like, the King of Despite and Despair, the Shadowing. Okay, sounds good. They have the worst namers. And then you had Returnal, which I remember when Returnal came up, I'm like, what? What? That's the worst. And I thought it couldn't be beat, but it can.
Yeah.
Forspoken, wow.
Also,
wow. Good game, guys. Good game. They came in for that last minute touchdown on Forspoken because I thought Returnal had it I thought nobody beat that, but no, here we are.
Yeah. I have someone who wrote in a community question, Stuff Sean. He actually asked exactly that question. He said, I've seen Carrick recently citing Avowed and Forspoken as some of the worst video games ever. But what other names you came across that you left either feeling flat or even oversold the product? For me, Metal Gear Solid Phantom Pain seemed a great name, but failed to live up. Thoughts?
Wasn't there one called Revengeance or Revengeance? Metal Gear Solid Revengeance, or there's like, those guys can't name for shit. It was like it was like Revengeance or something. You're like, dude, what? That's not a name. Yeah,
Yeah.
Metal Gear Solid. They've had one or two, haven't they?
They have
what are
had.
some others?
There are some weird ones in German. Sometimes they don't translate the title, but they add something to it.
Yeah.
So like the Middle Earth games, they are Shadow of War, and then they have like Middle Earth Shadow of War, and then they add another German subtitle to this game.
Oh, wow.
For whatever reason. So they don't even, then they keep the English original name, and then they just add another addition to it in German. It's not just the Middle Earth games, it happens all the time. That is something that is so weird to me. Why would you do that?
I think the dire emo eyeliner naming is gone. We're not getting a lot of Shadows and Gears and Warrening and Strife, where everybody was looking up the same. I don't know. It's like they were all listening to some kind of weird emo music at the same time, and got the same names. So I think we're getting away from that, but we're also getting these made up ones that are just odd, man.
Yeah, indeed.
I mean, I hear them and I'm like, what does that even? Returnal makes sense now that I've played it, but it still sounds like urinal, and that's where I pee. And I don't want urinal in my game. Returnal is too close to urinal for me.
Yeah, true.
Warhammer 40K Chaos Gate Demon Hunters 0 says that is a long name. That is true. Yeah, reviewing that was a bitch too. Because you got to put that in the review of the YouTube. You got to put it in the YouTube title, yeah. And then also fit in like buy away for sale for me. And it's just after a while, you're like, I barely any letters left.
That's true. Grumble says most people have heard unavowed versus avowed.
I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know.
I'm going to tell you, if most probably means 2 versus 3. Right? Yeah, Infinite probably. Undiscovery. Dustin brought up one. Infinite Undiscovery. That is a terrible title, and we teased the shit out of that when that game came out. We were like, Infinite Undiscovery, like it's just maybe, possibly, perhaps. Like, what a name for a game. Like, it's just, it's so bad. Yeah,
true. Oh man, sometimes you gotta wonder. I mean, Xbox in general has also. The guys who name their consoles, I don't know what they are thinking. Like the Xbox, okay, that's okay as a name, but then you got the Xbox 360. Who names his third console the Xbox One? And now even with the Series X and S, I don't know. Yeah, naming conventions.
I have the same problem. The reason why I don't bring it up much is I have the same problem with cell phones because I have a Pixel 3 XL-A or whatever. And there's like, 3 Pixel A, and you have to spend 15 minutes finding out why it's got the name. Like, is it a faster processor, a bigger? Dude, I bought a tablet. I have Samsung Ultra S8 tablet, which is like the 14-inch tablet for work. But I also have like 2 other Samsung tablets, and just trying to find out which of the Ultra tablets to get is hilarious. It's just like, why is this one so much less? And then you find like some arcane, and a lot of times it matters. Like there is a reason why it's less. You find this thing. Cyberpunk is the coolest title. It actually isn't a bad title because it's from an IP that was good. It's just that those guys didn't make a good game. But Cyberpunk, like, it is a thing too. Cyberpunk's onomatopoeia though. The name is what it is. I don't think people realize that Cyberpunk is Cyberpunk. There isn't a translation. It is, I mean, that is how it was created. The word was created by, magazine writers in the 60s.
Yeah. True. I have one more topic I wanted to discuss with you. Sony had this week a business presentation or call. I don't know if it was an investor call.
Yeah, I'm not sure either.
I don't know what that call actually was, but yeah, we got some informations out of it. Actually, a couple of informations. The first one was a very strong commitment to live service games. Jim Ryan, I want to quote him here. real quick, said the following. I think if we do this right, if we execute with intelligence and we execute with excellence, the opportunities for significant growth in the number of people who play our games, the number of people who enjoy our games, and the number of people who spend money on our games is exponentially a large one. I would say, for example, if we are successful in making a portion of the 12 live service games that we have in development at PlayStation Studios, if only a portion of those enjoy critical and commercial success, then the impact of that over time will be completely transformational to our business structure. So, yeah, Sony is really going down on live service games. And what do you think? I mean, Sony has been known for these single player experiences. Yeah, that's what made them big. That's what they are very well known for and loved for. And now they are kind of talking about live service is the future. It's going to transform our business structure. What do you think of this?
So they will still have third-person single-player games. They absolutely will. They'll just, what they're saying is they just have 12. They have multiple developers. They have 12 in line. Xbox has some, and so does Nintendo.
Yeah.
So it won't change much from what you're actually seeing and playing right now. What he's stating, and people need to understand who he's talking to. Like, is it an investor meeting? Is it a, E3? Because the discussion is going to skew each way. He is talking to investors and trying to basically make sure that, or company reps, and trying to make sure that they understand where business growth is planned and where they're moving forward.
Yeah.
And games as a service is a terrible name for something that many of us got back in the Morrowind Skyrim day, or Morrowind Daggerfall days, which is just expansions.
Yeah.
And they call them service games because they realized that you could do mini DLC between expansions. And that's sort of why it's called a service game. And if you look at any blueprint for or roadmap, you will see this. You'll see like small, 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 big, small, 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 big. This is something that we all got if you're even slightly older. You got, Shivering Isles, one of the best expansions ever made. But it was an expansion, had to be purchased physically. Those kind of old days where things were purchased physically.
I remember buying the Diablo 2 add-on on
exactly.
disc.
So what they identified is there's a way to keep people returning and playing your game. What the problem to me is not necessarily the service part, which is giving people, things every month. It's that usually microtransactions are on top of it. And so for example, if I'm playing a game and I'm like, dude, we want to make sure these guys want to come back. We like our game. We want to, like, if you just put passion into it, there are people who love cars. So they're like, we want car packs each month. Now, if those were free or an expansion, we'd be talking a different game. They're not. And so what happens is you start to get this really weird teeter-totter effect where it's difficult for a gamer to understand what an expansion is versus what a true service game is versus what a microtransaction heavy game is. And so what gamers do is black and white because it's easier. Remember, humans don't really have the brain that says the wind in these in this leaves over here could be a little, cuddly dog, or it's a cougar. Your brain is meant to go negative to keep you alive. So you're like, it's for sure a cougar. I'm going to be attacked. And that's what we do with our purchases. It's for sure bad. Yeah. Even though, by the way, some of your own friends might be making games. That's another thing. People I grew up with are making games, so I know that they're not planning on screwing people over because they got screwed over. But it's a very difficult discussion to have. I personally, service-to-play games feel a certain way if they are made to deliver shallow, optional content over time. Yeah. If it is day one, boom, ton of shit, then, man, I have a lot less of an issue.
Lost Ark is a perfect example. I've seen you guys talk on your show a lot about that game.
Lost Ark is the way to deliver a game and will never be done because it was already released. That's how Lost Ark got all its content. But Lost Ark is upping the game for every other MMO in the world because it has so much content that even though it's got some pay-to-win elements to it, people are like, I don't give a shit. Like because gamers are pretty flexible too. If a gamer gets a lot, they'll be like, okay, I can deal with this. But what we get with service games is we feel we don't get a lot. Case in point, Outriders. I'm sorry, but Outriders was not a full it was not a full experience, and you could feel it. Anthem was also very much not
Anthem
a
is
full
the one,
experience, and you can feel it. Gamers, it's almost like it's almost like a community mind, like a fucking mind meld, where we all know deep in our hearts, we look at it and we're like, not full. That's not a full experience. Where sometimes you see it and you're like, whoa, there's a lot there. I know people hate Ubisoft, but I got to tell you right now, most of the time when Ubisoft is like Assassin's Creed, plus we're going to have some DLC, plus usually because they have so much gameplay and they're so big and people like playing their games, I have less of an issue with their stuff, even though they've had microtransactions for sure. They've screwed up. They've also lowered one of the few companies that have gone in and actively lowered the microtransactions as well in some games. You can't win. It's not a 1-0 discussion, I guess.
No, it isn't.
It's impossible to have that.
What I find so weird in these discussions is that live service is automatically, like you said, attached with something negative. It's kind of like, oh no, not another live service game. But some of the best games out there are live service games right now. A lot of people playing Sea of Thieves comes up.
But dude, Sea of Thieves launched with nothing.
Yeah, it launched with nothing.
Here's the difference: Sea of Thieves versus Lost Ark. Lost Ark launched with a bunch of shit. That fucking game was unacceptable, man. Like, I was so mad when I was reviewing that game, going, there is nothing here. They want you to be the thing. And bullshit. That's unacceptable. That it doesn't make any sense. And then they went like, oh, we're going to give it away. Sometimes it's low cost, sometimes it's free. Then I think now it might even be totally free for like some stuff. I can't remember. But that's the difference between those. It is good now, though, but we don't want a No Man's Sky every game. In fact, we don't want a No Man's Sky any game.
No.
No Man's Sky is fantastic.
Games should come out with their content and then add on that content. But the first initial, and that's also the problem. I've said something to Wandering Dutch actually yesterday on his podcast about Halo Infinite. That's the problem with Halo Infinite. It is significantly harder to bring people back in once you have the content. You gotta drop a game with
Microsoft, dude. Sorry, they screwed up. No co-op for their major co-op game of all time. Whatever. I mean, I liked Infinite, but Infinite is not. I haven't returned to Infinite once because there's no reason to return. I can't even have the sandbox experience with somebody else. They haven't even figured out how to do co-op. And this is a company that failed utterly in the Master Chief Collection, a game that I reviewed and said, even if they fix it, you should never purchase it. Never, ever reward somebody for this handling of your major IP. That's a major IP. Imagine if Mario was handled that way from Nintendo. People would... Well, Nintendo fans would suck it up anyway.
The Master Chief is their mascot, and they have the biggest studio, one of the biggest studios actually in the world,
utterly.
With 800 people, like 6 years of dev time. I was like, what are they doing?
Yeah, they hemorrhaged this nasty-ass tumor onto gamers, and then they were like, hey, man, we'll fix it. It's like, you're telling me your primary IP you're going to need to fix.
Yeah.
If Sony did that with one of Sony's products, I would expect, and probably you would get, just like we're getting with Gran Turismo, by the way, you would get pushback, and you would be like, dude, we are your fans. And we bought your other games. How are you not rewarding us? Like, that's how a relationship works, man.
It is.
Otherwise, it's abusive, and that's what some of these companies have done.
And then in the year 2022, to have a ongoing live service game, and you bring like 2 maps in a year with that kind of team and promises of we are gonna do better. It is a mess. But I want to talk to you about something else from the Sony conference. They also said something interesting about mobile games, PC and mobile games, actually. I want to read another quote from Jim Ryan. By expanding to PC and mobile, and it must be said, also to live services, we have the opportunity to move from a situation of being present in a very narrow segment of the overall gaming software market to being present pretty much everywhere. PlayStation has a huge catalog of diverse first-party IP that can transition to smartphone gaming and complement our AAA games or live service games. We are exploring the mobile market with some wonderful PlayStation franchises, so please stay tuned. So, Sony is also apparently looking into the mobile market. What do you make of this? We know that they of course, go to PC. Not day and date just yet, but that will come eventually. But the mobile market and making actual smartphone games.
Dude, I think it's awesome. So here's the thing. Mobile games that do well don't have to be translated to PC. We're not all Diablo Immortal, right? Diablo Immortal, like being one of the cases of a company absolutely ham-fisting their major IP in a horrible way. So ignoring that, Sony's got some great titles. I would love to see some of those titles or alterations of those titles or side companion apps / titles to go on with their main ones, whether that be Spider-Man. What if you were a character who just helped Spider-Man by giving him data about crimes on your cell phone, and then when you log into your Spider-Man game, you've got those crimes there. There's a billion and one reasons to jump into mobile, including the fact that the shittiest mobile games, as long as they got big boobs, sell unbelievable gangbusters. So maybe they influence the money, or maybe they increase the money they're making so they can spend it elsewhere. One problem people don't realize is that Sony got caught where Microsoft went with streaming and everybody everywhere. Sony's sort of in that position where they doubled down on generations. Now they have to remove all that, which they are. Yeah. Granted, they are. They say that Game Pass has done extraordinary, and they're like, uh-oh. That's what you want. We're not politicians. We should change when you get new data. That's what scientists do. That's what intelligent people do. Yeah. If you put your hand in the fire multiple times and it's burnt every time, even if you think you're cool, at some point you should be like, probably shouldn't do that. That's true. Just being intelligent. So Sony is saying, whoa, we were not intelligent. Let's look at this. Case in point. Dude, putting your games day one on the PC store is going to do nothing but increase everybody's happiness. Yeah. And here's why. People fucking lie to themselves. And I'm going to tell you, you are a liar, and you are lying to yourself if you ever say this. A console is equivalent to a PC in performance or price. Never. Yeah. They are different categories of platform, and their price is different. The Xbox Series S is super cheap, and you still get some phenomenal performance and cloud streaming. The Series X, PlayStation is now doing the same. People who own the PlayStation don't instantly have the money, especially when GPUs were super expensive. Yeah. What the fuck? You see people all the time, just buy a GPU. You know what? Yeah. How much dope do you have to smoke when you don't understand that $100 doesn't equal $100 for every single product, or that $1,500 for a PC is not the same as $500? Like, how stupid do you have to be? But gamers, the trollish ones, not the smart ones, the trollish ones, so people don't get mad at me. Or if you do, fuck off, whatever. But people look at this and they're like, dude, they're different demographics completely. And I've heard people say, well, then I just won't buy a PlayStation. And here's the thing that I think they're forgetting. At some point, we're already going to be in that future anyway, because Sony would love to not make only $20 on each piece of hardware. Yeah. Sony would love to have invisibly you just playing these games. All these companies would. So
the margins on games is significantly higher than on the hardware sales.
It's unbelievably higher. Yeah. That's why I was trying to tell people that just a couple days ago. I was like, have you? And I did a tweet and PlayStation just mad. They were just so mad. They were like, that math doesn't check out. And I'm like, no, I checked it. It for sure checked. That math for sure checks out. A couple million sales outdo everything you could possibly make on if even every single person who bought the game bought a console, because how little the margin is on consoles.
The margin is,
And dude, it's time. It's time to say PlayStation has a platform that delivers amazing graphics. So does Xbox. Someday Switch may. But you've got these systems that deliver amazing low cost. Man, my brother doesn't have a lot of money. Boom. He can get a console, play the same game as me with me. That's phenomenal. I have a 2080 Ti. I can play what I want. The day that Sony says, you know, you're able to do Days Gone 2. Oh, and we got a horde mode with 2-player. Guess what? You can jump in, you know, with your PlayStation against the PC gamers, and we can all play at the same time. Sony is notoriously fickle about joining. Sony's old-time Japanese company. They don't want to do any dealings with anybody else. They're basically Yakuza. They're like, no. And now, only now. I mean, you have companies outright saying Sony said no to crossplay. We have it. Matter of fact, how many companies turned it on accident? By the way, you know software, right? No one in the world turns on crossplay on accident. It is absolutely, unbelievably
there is not this one switch on a desk for some guy and the intern tripped and accidentally, bam.
You could actually hear them winking at you when they were like, we accidentally turned on. No, you didn't accidentally turn that on. You had to program it in the first place. You had to go in and do all this. Of course you didn't just act. They were trying to prove a point to Sony. Sony, just like Microsoft, have their issues. And as quickly as Sony finally adjusts to this huge market on PC and figures out there's ways to do things, it's going to be phenomenal. In the same way that Microsoft is sitting on one of the biggest bankrolls I've ever seen and not made headway with it, which is mods. Because I'm going to tell you right now, if I was Microsoft, I would say every single game we're doing has mods, and we're going to have, for example, the next Skyrim. We're going to be the only, even if we did it co-op, even if we did it multi-plat, the console will have mods. That is a huge thing Microsoft has not taken advantage of yet. And I was blown away that they weren't out front saying, like, we're going to be the only, even if you get it somewhere else, we're going to be the only ones have mods on these Obsidian / Bethesda, whatever games. They're all sitting on gold mines. They just need to wake up and embrace it. And I think they're slowly doing it now.
It's funny you bring up mods because, consoles, especially the current gen consoles, are closer to PC than ever before. So bringing mods over should be easier than ever before. And I mean, we have seen it, but with so weird restrictions like Skyrim, you have mods. Yeah, you have those mods, but like limited to 5 gigabytes in size and limited with that and that. And I get that that consoles are protective ecosystems. That's what is a console. It is you don't have to deal with viruses. You don't have to deal with hackers and cheaters and stuff like that.
Well, cheaters you do.
Yeah, cheaters you do. Yeah, these days. Yeah.
But anyway, continue. I get the point. I totally.
You know what I'm going with this. And of course, bringing in mods and content created from the community brings in some safety concerns. I get that.
Very much does.
Yeah, but there are ways these days that you can somehow protect them, and even if that means that certain mods have to be certified, to just like every ID at Xbox game has to be certified, or something like that. Same, of course, on the PlayStation. I don't see a reason why they shouldn't do that, because, like you said, it is such a big opportunity that is missed from the console.
That would be your way. That would be your way of just saying we're the ecosystem. In fact, you know how Sony was very open right away. They bought Destiny. Bungie, sorry. And they were like, we want to use Bungie's assistance to fix our online or whatever, which I get it. I don't love Bungie's idea of vaulting shit, because like they do remove a lot of, so it's like, I hope that doesn't become the thing they learned. But Microsoft didn't do that with Bethesda. And I would have loved for Phil to walk out and be like, dude, these guys are the kings of mods of making their game, and we've shown you that because we already had mods on here. And they've had mods in other places. So mods on the 360 were completely possible, by the way. If you hacked the 360, you could mod that. So the idea of Microsoft standing out and saying, oh, you know what? We have one of the largest, if not currently the largest news-making, excitement-making situation, which is mods. Why? We see it every day. This mod fixed this game. Hey, guess what? Cyberpunk now has cops that actually work because somebody did a mod. Hey, Cyberpunk has this. If I was Microsoft, I would have a skeleton built for every game. And I would be like, Xbox Live offers mod capability as long as we're putting it in our SDK. So exactly. If you're a developer, you get your SDK set and it's like, boom, mod availability. You check that marker. Microsoft makes their bin. It says this is where your mods will be. You have to figure out, dude, it's a gold mine. And it is a longevity creator. It is people still buying GTA 5. There's a reason why GTA 5 has sold more copies than there are humans on the earth. Like, we're now at the point to where you can be like, who's buying this? It's because RPG players are buying it. It's because people want to make funny videos are buying it.
Yeah, Decado is saying in chat here, I want to be able to play download Skyblivion. One of the best mods I have personally ever played. Skyrim is also just like GTA. Who buys Skyrim 10 years, 11 years after launch?
Skyrim, the refrigerator Alexa version.
Yeah.
I hope mine doesn't turn on. It's nuts, man. And we're at that point where Microsoft's sitting on and they've seen it with Microsoft's Flight Sim, where it works really well. As long as we don't get the microtransaction kind of thing, I don't see any, and it doesn't look like that is sort of their plan. Bethesda tried it with the Creator Club, but overall it still was, we know how it works. Man, Sony's doing the same thing. And if the quicker Sony realizes that tablets, I have a tablet that is so powerful that when I play games on it, there are a couple that are quite close to, I would say, Xbox X. Not Series S or X, but Xbox X. They're that good looking. The things you can do, they are touch, so certain games won't work as well. But I played Wasteland and beat it. Wasteland 3. I beat it on the tablet. You now have streaming. You have the way to use your controller. People, the Switch isn't portable. It's got these joysticks you can sit on. If you wear carpenter pants, it's portable. But otherwise, it's that fucking big. Why not Sony saying, hey, man, we're going to figure out a way, like Microsoft sort of embraced the Riser Kizu thing that holds your... Embrace that shit, man. Push. Exactly.
That's the Switch.
Yeah.
Gigantic,
well, at least the
actually.
Switch, it's still pretty big, but at least you can also take, I always forget, if you have the real version, you can take off your things. You can put them in a different pocket.
Yeah.
But the ability to say, our games are going to be available on your cell phone, your tablet, and people are buying these every day, and every person is a legitimate extra purchase that you don't have to fuck over everybody. You don't have to put microtransactions in every game if you're able to sell your game on multiple platforms to people because you're making money from that. And I think that is one hope that we get sort of out of it, is that some of these companies are like, boom. I don't know what you'd put from Sony on there. I'm just trying to think. But Sony's has some Concrete Genie, one of my favorite games of all time.
Yeah.
If Concrete Genie was on my tablet, I wouldn't even have done this podcast. I'd be in my underwear playing Concrete Genie.
I mean,
sorry to go
look at the
long on you,
PlayStation. No, absolutely. Look at the PlayStation Vita and PSP. They had a fantastic library on mobile games, and they can bring that now over to actual mobile phones and tablets. Man, have you played that Uncharted game? What was it called on the Vita?
Golden Abyss or Golden
Compass? Yes, Golden Abyss. I loved it. Loved it. So it definitely makes sense. And even if it's not native games, like I would love to have some, what's a proper English word? Company games, like we had Fallout Shelter as an example. Yeah, you had the main game. Fallout 4 came out.
We call
Companion.
Companion.
Yeah. You have exactly stuff like that. I would love to see that.
Imagine a Wasteland first-person shooter coming out on the original systems. Then you get Wasteland 3 that's streamable or playable. Then you get a Wasteland like your game you just mentioned, like Fallout, and suddenly
Fallout Shelter,
and then somebody smartly figures out a way to somewhat merge them so that you feel like there is something valid for me playing on my mobile, dude. This is a water cooler moment. Look at Sony, water cooler moment. They announced all their TV shows today. They announced like they're doing all those TV shows. The same thing can happen when these guys embrace interconnectivity between apps that don't have to be direct ports. And they figure out Hitman Go, fantastic title. Holy shit, that was a good mobile title. So
it was. So
Final Fantasy, right? Final Fantasy, dude. Imagine somebody being like, we're putting, I mean, you could do Chocobo Razor on Final Fantasy, which allows for it to, I don't know, but just those
KOTOR. I actually played KOTOR again on the mobile.
And by the way, old KOTOR works. I don't know if the new one will, but old KOTOR worked fine on my tablet.
It works.
I was able to play it and enjoy it. And dude, we're looking at a future that is, and again, Unreal will help all this.
Oh yeah,
because Unreal has a mobile SKU. Unreal has a VR SKU, which is something no one's talking about, which I know Sony is, I'm sure, looking into and trying to figure out how, because I was told by somebody who made VR games that they're like, dude, you basically just push a couple buttons and you're set up for a basic VR game. So
that easy with Unreal. Yeah. By the way, 20 VR games are supposed to be there at launch of the VR2. So that's definitely exciting. One last thing that came out of this was another statement from Jim Ryan saying that they will support PS4 games until 2025. So they apparently, it sounded like they plan to do the cross-gen thing until 2025. What do you think? Too long? Good stuff?
No, they're not able to sell the PlayStation 5. That's not them reaching out and
Yeah.
saying, "Hey, we love our old gamers." That's them reaching out and saying, "Since we can't sell PS5s
Yeah.
because we're not making them fast enough, we have to." There's nothing wrong with that, by the way. It happens.
Yeah.
It's business. But I think it's good,
It
and I
is.
think they don't really need to put a date on it. But I like them doing that because that means it doesn't mean companies will support it. By the way, that means they will, which
Yeah,
so that
they
people
will.
know that
Exactly.
because we already know of 2 games that just recently were announced as not having last gen versions at all.
Yeah.
But I
Gotham
love it, man.
Knights and
Yeah, yep, that was the
what
one.
was the other one?
There was one other one that just got announced. There was like,
Yeah.
I think Gotham Knights was the big one, right?
Yeah.
So, dude, I mean, it makes sense. It, they are older, and the thing is you can now stream. I'm sure Sony's looking at streaming their new stuff as well.
Yeah.
I don't know if it's. I have a do you have a super fast connection?
Well, I have 250 Mbit. It's okay. For Germany, it's okay.
So I have a gig down, and I
Yeah.
have about 50 megabytes up, and I can tell you right now, man, it's still not. It's even GeForce Now, which I'm premium level.
Yeah.
It's not native, right? We know that, obviously.
Mhm.
But I do believe that both companies, any company streaming, so even Nintendo, they really do need to figure out a way to make that bandwidth look better, because I'm sitting there at really high bandwidth going, this is not as good as, let's say, 50 megabytes on a OBS recording. It's not even close to that good. So it's like we're losing a lot.
Yeah.
How do we get it to not lose that? And once they fix some stuff, once they get that fixed, you're going to look at PlayStation. I'm sure they're going to want to stream, games to their premiere, and Microsoft wants to stream. I think the reason why you're not hearing them talk a lot about it as much is because there's some dude, like Xbox streaming. Sometimes those games look like junk, like. And I like streaming on my tablet, and sometimes,
I use it a lot on my phone. It works because of the screen size.
Yeah,
I also tried it out on the big screen. But yeah.
It's nasty.
It's not the same.
No. It's
like
not.
these like big pixel blocks streaming in,
or you get the shimmery shit, and you're like, and I do know it works because I have internal LAN streaming, and you crank that up, and it looks very, very close to native. So there's something to be said about what they're doing to speed up the packets, what they're doing with the picture. In some games, I wish you could choose. And you can't. Microsoft is sort of closed off, but I really wish I could say, okay, this is a game like, I don't know, Tell Me Why, or, a slower game, Wasteland, which looked like terrible. I would love to be able to say, I want Wasteland to look as good as humanly possible, even if there's some lag. But they don't allow that yet.
Yeah, not yet. But it is something obviously that can help people out if, for instance, Starfield is one of these current gen only games, and if you're still on the old systems, better than nothing. Yeah. So, man. Great talk. We are almost a little bit more than 2 hours actually already into the show. So if you've got another couple of minutes, I would love to have some community questions with you before.
Go for it. Grab them. I'll be right back. I'm going to bring my dogs in.
All right, you do that. Okay, guys. This is the time where we go to the community questions, and let's start with that. All right, so community questions is the part of the show where you guys can write in questions prior to the show, either on Twitter or YouTube. Each and every Wednesday, I collect the questions, so you can be part of the show with a question, even if you're not live here in the chat. And this week, we actually got quite a few. from all kinds of different community members. The first I already read a little earlier in the show from Stuffed Sean, and now Carrick, you actually missed the.
Continue. Come on in.
Yeah.
Dogs, come. Sorry, I got to get him in here. I got like 3 things going on, but I want to continue this. Come on. Hey, come in
Sure.
here. What's up?
You get your dog in.
Nothing's in here. I lied to you. Ha! I'm smarter than Okay, continue.
All good. Now you actually missed the jingle from the community question. I'm just gonna play it once more for you, just for you. So here we go. So
horny.
Exactly what I was going for. All right. So where do we have now? This thing scrolled down. Here we go. This one comes from Christopher Jones. Do you think we'll get a release date for Space Marine next week at the Warhammer Games event? It's confirmed to be appearing alongside Darktide, which is scheduled for September 13th.
Damn, that's a good question, man. I would hope so. I didn't know there was an event. I love Warhammer, man. So
I know you do.
That seems like a good time.
Yeah. Sounds realistic. I mean, I didn't know about the event either. I googled it prior to the show, and yeah, it would make sense to announce it there. Definitely. So another one, another question comes in. From Gaming with Dan. With the recent Xbox tweet about Stranger Things, would you like to see them make a game in that universe? And if so, what kind of game?
Yes, and it would be like Remember Me, which I actually think was a good ripoff of Life is Strange. I'm a big fan of those kind of games, and I think
I have not played that.
Dude, it's so good. I think that would be phenomenal. And Stranger Things is like those episodic. You can do. You wouldn't even have to, because obviously some of it's based in Russia, just because of what we saw at the end of the last one. So it's like, you could do another, small town with other kids dealing with their own creature, their own situations. I would kill for that. Yeah, I love Stranger Things. I think that it's untapped, and we'll probably see novels and stuff like that. But it's a world now. Like it is. It's pretty much its own world now.
What I don't want is an open world game in that universe. No. I don't know. It has to be kind of a linear experience.
Dude, Stranger Things, tell me why. Until Dawn, The Quarry, these are titles that people, if they're good, want to play, and they know what they are. And so there is very much room for a good Stranger Things title.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Something linear on the line. That would be cool. So here we go. The next question comes in from Masshole 1977. He says, they say ABK is moving very quickly for an acquisition of this size. Could we possibly see this finalized or to the point where Microsoft can go ahead and announce this by the end of the summer to fill the gap? Also, could Microsoft already have other acquisitions in the making? Yeah, let's talk about the first question. I don't think, if it's okay, I go first here. I don't think we will see this finalized by the end of the summer. An acquisition of this size, even if they say, it's moving along well and it's going good and fast and everything, by end of the summer is too short. I think it is probably end of this year and early next year. And I want to cite here Hogue Law, who is an actual lawyer, because he knows a lot more about this stuff than I do. And he also said something similar, that he does not expect this deal to be done before the end of the year.
Yeah, I would agree.
Yeah. And I think we already talked a little bit about that other acquisitions are probably already in the talk. At least talks are going on. Whether they acquire something right after or not, like I said, I want them to onboard first all these studios and get their actual game roadmap out. Have that regular stream of content coming before we talk about other acquisitions, because they have enough studios to be able to release games now.
I will slightly disagree with that.
Okay, please. Why?
Well, I mean, I agree with what you're saying, but for example, so because onboarding is incredibly difficult. However, like for Bethesda, their onboarding doesn't involve the normal employees because Bethesda is its own publishing arm, and they are not onboarding into Microsoft's current scheme of things, even though they're allowing people to move within the company. I agree that onboarding is difficult, but if we say arbitrarily, we just hope they hold off until things happen, we're also ignoring that the world happens. And once again, wars, blah, 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 and all this crazy stuff. I don't know if arbitrarily holding off speeds anything else up, because the people that we're talking about are doing specific things. The onboarding people do onboarding stuff. They're not programming a game. So there's that. There's also the fact that if a company is going to go out of business, but Microsoft's like, hey, we like your stuff, I would rather have that to occur than for them to either take a worse deal somewhere else or evaporate as a company. So I'll say I get the onboarding thing, but I don't know enough about. I do have people who work at Microsoft proper, not games. Well, one games, but most are family members or extended family or friends of family who work at Microsoft, a lot of them. And there's a lot of parsing out of those things that don't impact anybody else. And so I don't know how much of a slowdown is generally occurring.
Well, if it's any like the company I work for, it is simply a matter of management capacity. In the end, to bring games out, to start new development roadmaps, get proper marketing roadmaps on the line, and everything.
I'm listening. I got my headphones on. I'm going to grab my dog.
All right. To bring all those stuff on the line, you have to have a working management, and the more management has to take care of, the less decisions you will get. Decisions will take longer. Things get a lot more complicated to greenlight budgets, to whatever. And this is, of course, just me speculating. But when we talk about ABK, they also inherit a lot of problems and issues, and management has to pay a lot of attention to get that culture and structure right. They didn't have that probably with Bethesda, but they also have to somehow make sure these employees follow now the guidelines of Microsoft. They follow that they get the equipment, that they get their stuff on the road, and that is just management capacity. And at the end, and so I get what you were saying, Karak, with each. No problem. Anyway, dogs are like kids, right?
Dude, and I got 4 dogs, and we had somebody come by to clean the house, and they all went 4 different directions. And then, she's wearing a mask because she's like intelligent.
Yeah.
So like she's got a mask, and I'm trying to cover my face. Going, I'll get the dogs. Just anyway, what were we saying?
Where were I? So I get your point, and saying that the regular worker at Studio X and publisher Y is not affected by that onboarding process, but at the end, it's still management capacity that you need to bring them into the culture, to arrange everything and so on. And it's not the whole story, obviously, but I mean, Microsoft has so many studios, and they still have at least right now very empty looking 22. So onboarding or bringing those studios into the cadence that works for them is definitely something they need to take care of. Good, man, but I don't want to keep you any longer. I see your dogs are busy.
Now they're barking. I think they're going to try to get it. One of them's smart, and he can fucking open the door.
Oh.
So I always got to watch out. He doesn't open the door and get in when the people are here.
Yeah.
But yeah, man, I absolutely appreciate you inviting me.
No, thanks again for coming on. It's been a blast. So let people know where they can find you and what they can expect from you in the next weeks.
I think my custom URL is Angry Centaur Gaming still on YouTube, so I'll be there. Jeremy Penner on Twitter. From me, you can expect. And
by the way, just if you can't find it, click in the description of the show note the show. there are all the links to your Patreon, YouTube, Twitter, everything.
Yeah, check those out there. And then from me, I'm trying to do a walk in the walk. It depends on time frame, but I do have Absy helping me edit, which has been a big plus. So there's been more videos, more news videos, a couple reviews next week, I think. And then after that, more reviews. It's going to be sort of a dead month, so I'll probably be doing some top 5s or something. But
something like that. Yeah, sweet. Yeah, man. Good times. And again, thanks for coming on. I have 2 things I wanna get off real quick. Next week we have to actually go in parallel to Karek's show on Friday. We have to move it next week to Friday because for the very first time since the pandemic starting, I'm going on a business trip with overnight stay. So I will be out of the city from Wednesday to Friday, and we will be doing the World of Gaming show next week on Friday. So that's something to remember, but I will put that on Twitter and YouTube and everywhere so that everyone knows.
I'm going to bow out. They're freaking out.
All right, you do that.
Thank you very much, man. That was a blast for sure.
It was.
See ya,
thank you. See ya. Yeah, and the second thing I want to briefly mention, save your calendars for the, let's call it E3 week. The E3 week is what I still call it. Is starting on June 9th with some showcase. I will have a live show here on this channel as a reaction show. I will have the entire crew from the Xbox International podcast on there, as well as Pong Soul. Then, of course, there will be a live reaction show to the Xbox showcase here on the show. I have the entire Green Pass gaming crew on here to discuss everything that got announced. It's going to be a blast. And the big one you definitely do not want to miss is on Saturday, June 11th, the day prior to the Xbox showcase, because that's when we do a big prediction show here on the World of Gaming. I have Chess Gordon from Windows Central, I have Randall Thor on, I have Ainsley from Season Gaming, Mr. Boomstick XL, Wandering Dutch, I have Gas from Game On Daily, and so many others. Like 15 different content creators from the scene coming in to this show, dropping in and out and giving their predictions. You do not want to miss that. It's Saturday, June 11th at 8 p.m. Central Europe. That's 2 p.m. Eastern and 7 p.m. UK time. Okay, thank you, guys. With that, I want to close out the show. Again, a shout out to ACG or Karek for joining us here today. It really was a blast. But of course, I also want to say a big thank you to everyone here in chat, everyone who listens to the show after the fact. Thank you, guys, and thanks a lot for the super chat. It really, really helps. Again, a brief reminder for the sponsor, Play Vital. In case you are looking to customize somehow your gaming equipment, you will find that in the description of the show note as well. But for now, I thank you very much for watching, and I see you guys next week. And don't forget to game on.